It's so hard to come up with, like I said, we always have like our top 10, top 4, but we got to come up with a Mount Rushmore, We always go, hey, we got to get 4 drummers. So if we said, hey, if we had 4 drummers here and we're putting them on Mount Rushmore, and we've talked a lot about different drummers here, guys. I mean, who would be those 4, I mean, you mentioned a lot of different names. You said Tommy Aldridge. I forgot about Tommy Aldridge. He really jammed. He played with Pat Travers Bland. He played with Ozzy. Played with Whitesnake. And I remember my brother saw him Ozzy in concert back in '82 or '81 at Sunrise Musical Theater. Def Leppard opened up, and when he came home that night, I was only 11. I couldn't even go. He goes, the band was amazing. But with Tommy Aldridge, he was doing his drum solo. He threw away his sticks and continued to drum
with
solo
his
hands.
Yeah, he plays a drum kit with metal rims as if he's playing bongos or congos. Yeah.
Welcome back to the 280s Dudes podcast. It's your hat dude wearing 80s rocker Billy May with Jeff the Goldman Goldstein. And we have a special guest. He's a South Florida, a very well-known guy in South Florida, Chip LaMarca, member of the Florida House, actually, since 2018?
2018. Soon to retire in November of this year when someone else gets elected.
That's right. And so before that,
can you get reelected, or you just
no?
don't want to do it?
We have term limits in Florida.
Oh, you have term limits. Okay.
I had 4 2-year terms, which is 8 years, and 8's about enough going back up and forth. And
Chip is beloved in Broward County, especially. And before that, he was a Broward County commissioner for how long, Chip?
8 years too.
8 years, and then you were a Lighthouse Point city commissioner for a few years too, right?
For 5 going on 6 years.
Okay.
Been,
okay. And I know there's there's speculation. You probably don't want to say anything here, but do you know what your next move is going to be?
I don't. I know it won't be anything in 2026. Eileen and I are still kind of discussing, but it'll more than likely we'll still got a little public service left in the tank, and we think it's something in 2028, either back in Tallahassee or something possibly local.
Got it. Very cool. So Jeff's a Palm Beach County guy. I'm a Broward County guy, and I know Chip personally. His wife Eileen and I went to St. Coleman's and graduated Cardinal Gibbons together, and we're actually planners of our high school reunion. We're working on our 40th reunion next year. So, and Chip, you went to Northeast High School, so you're a local guy too. Not born here, but you were raised in Broward County, right?
Correct. Came here and I was a 3-year-old.
Where were you from originally?
Massachusetts. I was going to take issue with your hat. Go Sox.
Yeah, the Red Sox hat. Yeah. I went to school. My office. Yankee fans, we need the Red Sox. It's a love-hate relationship.
Right.
And,
it's like
I went to school in Rhode Island, so I used to get harassed up there. It was great.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
I love New England. So
very, very cool, guys. And so we got a great topic today.
Wicked cool.
Wicked cool. Yeah.
Massachusetts.
As long as it wasn't a Mets hat, you're fine.
Yeah.
That is true.
That
is.
I don't even like the Mets.
Mets fans are like Jets fans. We don't like them. So at least we can respect.
I think I'd rather root for the Sox than.
I was at Boston University in, in 1986, and that was a heartbreaker of a World Series. More importantly, I think there were more Mets fans in Boston than there were Red Sox fans.
So
that was. I saw watching
that was heartbreaking.
That was terrible. My dad never survived that, man. He had the champagne popped and everything ready to go, and he never recovered from that. He was a diehard Red Sox fan, and he died, unfortunately, in 2000, so we never got to see him win all those World Series. But 86 World Series was brutal. Yeah. But gentlemen, Chip, welcome to the podcast, and we're going to talk about music, and we're going to talk about drums. And Chip, you're a drummer, and so, yeah, come on, man.
You still are.
I'm going to give you some visual aid just to prove that I played something else too. That's the guitar. That's in probably 1984. And that was playing my brother's drum set. You can see the really cool rototoms there. And then this is what we usually did after school. That was he and I both playing. Ignore the ripping face there, but yeah.
That's cool.
No, old school photos.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so not only did you play drums and guitar back then, Chip, but you still you still play drums, right? And you play in a band up in Tallahassee with other house members, correct?
Yeah. So a buddy of mine from Lake County, Central Florida, named Taylor Yarkowski, he and I did some business together before he got into politics. He ends up running for office. He gets up there. He's got his guitar. He's thinking about putting like a band together. He goes, "How you play some, fill in and play a few songs with us and that kind of thing." And we end up, he puts the band together. First, it was another house member up on the Panhandle, guy he went by the nickname Doc. He was a medical doctor, but he left not too long after that. So it was Taylor, myself, and then what I call real musicians. The governor's general counsel, a guy named David Axelman. I mean, how can you not be a ripping guitar player? Your name is Axe.
Right.
So he's just like prototypical political lawyer, works for the governor, and for some reason he just absolutely shreds. I mean, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, you name it.
Really?
So he's like the lead guitarist. Our buddy Representative Yarkowski plays kind of rhythm. He's getting into a little more lead, some solos here and there. They got a bass player, and then they've got a really good drummer, Jared Williams, who is a deputy. He's the chief of staff now to the lieutenant governor. And there's a singer who has nothing to do with politics. I believe he works for Oracle or one of the tech companies in Tallahassee. I believe it's Oracle. And so kind of went over to their studio / living room a couple times and got proficient in a few songs. I think my set list was like Man in the Box from
Alice in Chains.
Great tune.
That's
some Benatar, Rick Springfield, poppy stuff, Outfield. Made him throw in some Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Living After Midnight, and
I love that song.
Couple Van Halen songs and a little bit of Collective Soul. But really, I got like probably
Collective Soul.
I got some video of me doing at least probably 5 or 6 of those songs and just having a lot of fun. It really is a great thing to kind of take your kind of expend some of your frustrations on and really just fun.
Oh yeah.
Never grow up. You can't grow up even if you have like a serious job. You got to have fun.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So we came up with this cool logo. I'll have to share it with you, but it's House of Rock, and instead of it looks like the Capitol building. The domes on the House and Senate building, and then the tower in the middle. But it's really a guitar neck, and then there's like lightning bolts shooting out of it and stuff. And then the set of stars around the seal. It's got like guitar picks. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good job with it.
Have you posted any live video, or did I see some video on YouTube or something that one of the other guys posted?
You might have. Yeah, it's House of Rock Live. I think the X handle, and then there's some other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
we gotta go watch this stuff.
Yeah, we gotta check this out. So,
we're trying to become more local. So that's it's pretty local.
Yeah.
Well, the first time we played together was interesting. It was my final election night, 2024 at Coral Ridge Country Club. They're closed on Tuesdays, ironically, and called the
great place to play.
We want to have this little get together. So, this truck shows up with a big trailer with House of Rock on the side of it, the drums and everything starts getting unloaded. I'm still, going to make sure I took care of business in the political front, and we had our announcements. Kind of the votes came in early, and these guys played a bit, and then I joined them for a few songs. So that was kind of like our inaugural get together.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. That was a nice
Bill, we need to do a band. We don't know how to play, but
I don't know.
We got to figure this out.
We got to go. We got to get Chip's band down here to play.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they'll throw us out.
Well, it came down to do a show in the Keys for Representative Jim Mooney, who's a great member of the Florida House, real environmental Republican, but very environmentally conscious. We worked on the Flamingo bill together. We got together for an event for him down in the Keys, Alamorada. So we'll definitely figure out how to get them down here.
Very cool. We were thinking about trying to get a music festival, like the 280s Dudes Music Festival. Maybe play someplace in Broward County, try to recruit some lost members of some 80s rock bands or some maybe Slayer or something. I don't know. Who knows? I think right.
Oh, no, right. They had Rockfest.
Well,
so there's a connection to some, actual, paid musicians in this band. Mark Tremonti's a good friend of Taylor's, and
Creed.
Yeah, from Creed and his own gig and some other things. Funny side story on him. He has a child with, I believe, with autism, and he put this concert series together. I want to say not last holiday season, it might have been last. Like Christmas season, he did a Frank Sinatra album. And
I heard that. That's good.
I'm a huge Sinatra and Rat Pack fan, and he hit it out of the park. It definitely wasn't Sinatra; it was his own, version of these songs. But
it was considering it's really good. He put like a cool.
And it was very loungy, it was just he got a great voice, and I didn't know that about him, but it was really cool. But he came and played a little bit with us a couple times.
That's awesome.
I think those guys started at FSU.
Oh, they
did? Yeah.
They're totally, definitely a Florida band. But
I know they're Florida.
He was living in Boca for a little while, Scott, when he was having some problems.
And his brother is married to like the Undersecretary of Health and Human Services. Trying to remember Dr. Neshawat.
Oh, wow.
Her sister was our chief science officer in the state of Florida for like the Resilient Florida office. So a lot of connections.
Very cool. Very cool. So we're gonna. That's awesome. We love it. All this. Right. This is a priority, and we're gonna.
Is anyone seeing Rush this summer or late this year? I think they're playing
I'm
Hard
going.
Rock in November.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going to spend the extra money. You know what? It's probably the last time. So Bill's definitely invited. You're invited. Whoever wants to go, we're gonna wait till like October to see if the seats come down a little bit. But that woman drummer, she's insane. Really.
Yeah, I saw. I was flying with. I was going to Canada a couple of weeks ago on a trade, delegation with Florida Commerce, and I'm on the plane and going through YouTube, and there was somebody like kind of home recorded or best they could from where they were, the Kia Center in LA, like the whole concert, and like Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson were just kind of like that, the drum fills and Tom Sawyer, they're kind of like at the her drum stand or her podium, and she making sure she nailed it, and she look, nobody's going to be Neil Peart. I mean, there just isn't another one, but she did a phenomenal job, and they're playing songs they hadn't played in 30 years, so I think it's cool.
I'm totally happy for the, like, you know what, you go around once in this life. Hopefully there's more, but if you're happy doing this, it's actually the biggest honor for Neil Peart, for them to tour and even have somebody, else play, because like you said, nobody's going to be Neil Peart, but guess what? Go out and have fun. I mean,
they sound really
insane.
Good.
I don't know if it was you that sent me a video or my friend, but they sound amazing.
Yeah. And like you said, Chip,
I want to say Snakes and Arrows, or one of those tours up at West Palm Beach Amphitheater when they were, still tours. It's got to be 20 years ago. And I mean, drummer was always on. As musicians, they were always good. The only thing that started fading away was, unfortunately, you can't hit those high notes on a lot of those songs and Geddy Lee's voices.
I knew you were going to say that.
Kind of like Billy Joel, like some of the high notes he couldn't do, and like Innocent Man, he had a backup singer. But, I think being able to see like your favorite bands, even if they're 80, 90, 95%, whatever of what they were at their height, I mean, it's still, people are still watching golfers play, at 90% of what they were at one point.
Yeah, just appreciate it. We saw Triumph. I mean, the singer couldn't hit it, Rick Emmett, but it was still amazing. It was still amazing.
A great band.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite bands in the 80s.
Really underrated. And
they
seemed like cool dudes.
It was a good show, and it was only their second show when we saw them, so they were still kind of working out the bugs.
But it was a good show. Like it was just, they were structured, really good, and they looked like they were having fun, and I don't know, it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was good. But from into this Rush show, they look like they really, really, really practiced.
Well, I think they're really excited to go do this. They were like,
what I had heard from. I just knowing, amateur drumming, or even when I was playing every day when I was in high school, I mean, it's pretty wearing on the body. And Neil was 60 years old? Yeah. Probably at the time when they kind of are 40. I mean, my understanding is they were going to kind of wrap it up anyway, basically just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, he was done. He wanted to know more of it. So.
Yeah. And I feel like those two, there were a couple of videos and interviews and documentaries type things that, they're sitting drinking red wine in like a castle or someone's house late at night, and they're just talking about the old times of, he was, and I think a lot of times in life, people don't grieve grieve thoroughly. We'll say properly is, it's subjective, but, thoroughly. And I think they, took the time and did some other projects. I watch a podcast called Rick Beato, B-E-A-N, reads, writes, and, professor type musician. And, he's had some great musicians on, and like they had Geddy, Alex, they had Annika on, and they had like their producer, and they had them all separately. And same thing with the Police. I just saw, this was kind of cool. One of probably my favorite concert I ever went to, and probably in the history, or certainly in high school, but probably ever, was the Police at the Orange Bowl, Synchronicity. And when I mentioned that to people,
that was at their height.
Yeah, it was. It was like literally when Sting was just getting ready to go do his solo tour, and that was that. But anytime I mention that, like somebody kind of my age group, they're like, "Oh yeah, I was at that show," and I'm like, imagine the amount of people that were there, but like. Just kind of looking at some of that, tension, and like the, Rush never had that, but I saw Stuart Copeland like 2 weeks ago it was really just like a talk at the Broward Center. It was him and.
How was that? I wish I would have went. I saw it advertised.
It was cool. It was different. Like anytime you can, hear Stuart Copeland talk about the Police, and there's a good documentary also out on, I think it's on Netflix, Andy Summers did. And he was apparently videoing and photographing a lot of, from the day one when they got together, while they're, touring and recording and everything else. And it's just kind of cool to hear, more background and like context of how great it was at one point and how bad it went. So, personalities, but, it does look like Rush is having a good time.
Big personalities, especially Copeland and Sting.
Yeah.
They were at each other's throats.
Yeah, but
and Copeland's history, the talk was, start the history of his dad being the CIA and replacing the dictator of Egypt, and then living in Beirut, Lebanon during all that stuff, and starting a band and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's cool. Just I don't. When someone says you buy we don't buy records or albums or tapes or even download it. I mean, nowadays it's just like probably replay all the old stuff. And I'm a big Tears for Fears fan, so they came up with
good.
Yeah, they came up with a new, we'll call it album. They came up with a new recording a couple of years ago that was actually really good.
That's a great album. That album.
Yeah, Tipping Point.
I felt like I was the only one to listen to it. It was really good. They came to West. I was on vacation in Hawaii, and they came to West Palm, and I was so pissed that I missed.
We went. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I wish I would have went to that show.
They're a great band.
I wasn't here either. I wish I went to that show. And
the one I missed with them, I wanted to go see them. They were in a prettier, call it a, Vegas, whatever they call that when they're kind of doing a bunch of shows, but
like the residency.
Yeah, they did like but it wasn't super long. It was like maybe a dozen shows at the new Fontainebleau when they opened it up out there. It was last like June, or maybe it was at some point when I was like, all right, I'll do it next month. I never got around to it, but it was still around.
Yeah. Now we have to be grateful, especially living down here in South Florida. We do get a lot of bands that come through here, and like there's special events, like you said, Chip, and go to see Stuart Copeland, just kind of hang out and talk a little bit and stuff like that. Last year I saw Herb Alpert. He's 90 years old, still plays. This Tijuana.
I saw her. He was one of my, records I listened to growing up, because my dad was a drummer before my brother and I, like, we didn't really know him. I was only one when he passed away. My brother was 3, but we picked up the drums, and those are the records that we'd stick on the record player. Herb Alpert, like big band stuff, and, Brazilian jazz and Sinatra. And my wife and I saw, it was funny. She's like, "Who's Herbie Hancock?" Then she Googled it. And the only song she would have known was Rocket from the 80s, the kind of like, I don't even know what you'd call that, like, electronic,
Yeah, it was that kind of like electronic.
It wasn't hip hop, it wasn't rap. It was just kind of like the music. We saw him. He was in his 80s, but he played for like 90 minutes, crushed it.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah. It was a time of innovation. I mean, that documentary on Run DMC and how they kind of did their thing. I mean, they were pioneers in that, and then, kind of faded away a little bit, and harder rap came in, and they just, not only did they come back, I mean, I would say they brought Aerosmith back.
For sure. Aerosmith wasn't even they weren't even a band at that point, really. I mean, and then they remember they came back in the early 90s early 80s with Joe Perry, and then they didn't really do very well. Then the Run DMC thing that brought them back, and it really, like you said, Chip, they relaunched Aerosmith, and it brought Run DMC wrapped into the mainstream, and that's where music kind of rocked.
Then they came out with what was that album with
Dude? Permanent Vacation.
Looks like a lady, and
Permanent Vacation. Dude Looks Like a Lady.
Yeah. But it definitely changed. But
yeah, I was during COVID. I have this huge TV in my, like a smart board in my office. And I just came in, I'm going to do everything I can to get as much information out, whatever I could get, like from the state task force, from the governor's office, just make sure people are kind of up to speed on things. And so we, did something probably every other day. We'd put a newsletter out and a lot of emails, and just whether it's unemployment assistance, what you can do with different types of loans or grants, or, it was interesting. We had a brewing, 26 Degrees Brewing up the street. They were trying to stay open, but, a brewery was not an essential business, but a restaurant, food service was. So Jonathan, who owns, started and kind of runs 26 Degrees, he's like, what do I do? And we got word that, hey, if you had a pizza oven, in your brewing place, you could send a pizza along with a half keg of beer to someone. Another one was Heritage in Fort Lauderdale. Anyway, we're going through all this, kind of trying to figure out how to stay in business and not, lose everything you have and all that. And I just I need some, mental, entertainment. So I put on Entourage on the big screen, just watched all 8 years episodes again.
Oh yeah.
Which I actually did again earlier this first quarter this year, January, February. Eileen and I moved to
Ari. Ari. It's a great show.
You couldn't do Ari today. You couldn't do Lloyd. Do any of that. you might be able to do Eric, but you're not doing any of the others. I mean, Ari is just like, he's going to break, it was Me Too. It was this, it was that. Like you just,
Right.
they just, Hollywood wouldn't create it, which is unfortunate because I mean, people should have a sense of humor and understand that what's right is right and wrong is wrong, but you can still laugh about stuff.
Yeah, none of the 70s shows would have worked. Sanford or Son would never work today.
No.
Oh my God, never.
That's why we have podcasts like this, and we talk about music, we talk about film and fun, all that stuff, and that's why people want to relive their youth because it was a lot of fun back then, and
we grew up in the best of times because we didn't have the internet, but we had beepers. We just got cable, so we had all these. We just got the computer. We had
my cable had a cord.
Video games.
I had a console, like the remote was a console with buttons and like 3 levels.
Oh yeah, you remember? Yeah,
with a cable on it, right?
Yeah, with a big cord on it.
Yeah, we were the first.
That was a boomerang for my mother. She once took that at me once. She's like, back in the day. I saw my mom. Yeah, she's 82. I go, Ma, you remember when you used to like when you were really crazy? She's like, I was never crazy, and I'm like, she's like, you couldn't get away with that today. So,
I had an Italian mother who I wouldn't say she took off her shoe and threw it at me, but she would throw big projectiles around the house. Usually a wooden spoon at the end of the day.
Wooden spoons.
Yeah, the spoon was like my mother went after my sister with the spoon constantly.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Great time.
I really feel bad for like kids today that have been like overstimulated with small screen to bigger screen to bigger screen and
no, I think they missed out on a lot of stuff. So
no, they haven't, and all these these great drummers. We're going to talk about drummers now. These great drummers.
Drummers.
Think about it. Would these drummers be who they are today if they grew up today in today's world? I think people like playing an instrument is outlet. And what everyone, like you said, Chip, they're stimulated between phones and iPads and TVs and stuff.
But you could literally write a song on GarageBand, right? Apple or I'm sure there's 10,000 other programs that are just as good or better. But like you could lay down a drum track, lay down a bass track, lay down a guitar track. Even if you're a musician, right?
But they were back in the day. It was like mystery. Like it was a mystique. Like even like we all grew up
like
kind
a
of in
reverb
the 70s
too. Repeater, and you put your drums through a microphone, and might sound a little different. But I mean, what was the most? I mean, if we say Neil Peart was like the top,
right?
He was pretty. He was methodical. I mean, outside of his drum solos, he was pretty methodical, and you almost heard at a concert what you heard on the records.
Yeah,
which he was like a perfectionist. But then you think of like the Phil Collins fill in the Air Tonight. I mean, that's still probably kids wouldn't know about it today if it wasn't for The Hangover. Or other places where they redo it, and it's
such
cool
a great
to see an old song kind of come back.
Wasn't that also in Risky Business?
No,
that was
Miami
Bob
Vice.
Seger.
Yeah,
Miami Vice. What was the other? I was gonna say there's like that Tears for Fears song. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. It was like Hunger Games or something that it's in something else was rewritten and redone. But like it's cool to see hear old stuff kind of redone.
Yeah, for sure. And you brought up two names as far as drummers are concerned, Chip. And so every podcast, Jeff and I, what we do is I say my top 10 drummers. He says his top 10 drummers. We kind of battle it out and we kind of argue back and forth. Then we have like our Mount Rushmore of kind of drummers. But we're going to do ours a little different today. And because we have you on as a guest, but so you mentioned first Neil Peart and Phil Collins. Are those two of your favorite drummers?
Well, Neil for sure. I don't want to just pigeonhole Phil Collins and being a drummer because he was such a good singer.
Yes,
different alternative drummer. I mean, he played left to right instead of right to left, which is really weird. There's a great podcast on Drumeo where his son Nick reassembles his drum kit. With him there, and they're just like break down that one fill, and there's different ways people thought it was. Another,
really?
But I would say Neil. I love Tommy Aldridge, who he didn't.
Yeah, he's really good.
He didn't record the original Ozzy, the Blizzard of Oz and Dire of
That's
Madness,
right.
but he performed them and played for many years and played other bands. Which, by the way, I think those are probably two of the greatest records ever recorded.
Which ones? The first two Ozzy albums?
With the Randy Rhoads. I'll call them the Randy Rhoads albums.
I agree. I think that I agree with them.
I mean, if those were
they were masterpieces.
Yeah, they were like moving pictures, right? You could pull apart every song on there. When I played the guitar, the one song I want to learn more than anything else was Diary of a Madman, and that's probably the only thing I can probably remember a little bit of, that and Crazy Train. But
It's
like,
Diary of the Madman. It's eerie in the beginning.
yeah, it
Just
has it's
great.
for little classical.
Yeah.
That's when Randy Rhoads was stopping in small towns and trying to find a classical, guitar teacher and just kind of get better and all that stuff. But I think like as far as just drummers, obviously Neil, I'd put
Right.
Alex Van Halen in there. Eddie gets all the attention, but Alex is,
I
you break
agree.
down
I
some of
think
the drum
Alex
parts.
House, and he's from a great musician family. So
Yeah.
hey, really quick, like
those were
they
the
were
guys
just
that were like,
innovators. They were
they were in like LA just doing stuff that no one else was doing.
yeah.
I mean, literally there
Yeah.
are other people like going around like, how's that guy doing that that hammer-on technique or whatever else. I mean, watching some of these podcasts, I mean, you hear, like whether it's Drumeo or Rick Beato or some of these music podcasts, it's like, you really get an appreciation for, musicians, not just musicians that were out at the big, arenas and amphitheaters and playing live, but like the ones that were, on every song you ever heard, but never didn't play that much, like Jeff Lukather of Toto. I think he's
amazing.
like
and he's working with Van Halen right now. That was like one of his best friends.
You mean
Eddie Van
Steve
Halen.
Lukather? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And
Yeah.
then the drummer at Toto, he was Jeff Porcaro. He passed away years ago.
Yeah. Jeff Porcaro was the drummer, and
there
was 3 Porcaros in the band. I think one's left.
That's right.
Drummer, keyboard, and which, by the way, I would put Jeff Porcaro in. I would, until we start looking at a list of 100. I'd say I'd put him up in top 10.
It's funny you say that, because actually I have him in my top 10. He's one of them guys because he played with everybody.
The studio guys. I mean, you could think of Steve Lukather, Jeff Porcaro. Then you start thinking of like, God, I'm trying to remember the guy that played with like Steely Dan, a bunch of other bands, was a studio drummer.
Not Simon Phillips. He was the drummer for Bad Company.
He did some, and the other one was.
It's a good one.
There's just guys like that, they just play on. I mean, like if you look at Lukather's body of work, I mean, he basically wrote "Beat It." Of course, Eddie went in and did a freebie, and
Steve was like he started when he was like 16 playing it. He was a studio musician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I saw a whole documentary on him. He's insane.
I mean, I think some of the studio guys are just because they've got to be so versatile. They don't, excuse me, they don't come out and, if you're Tommy Lee, who, pretty badass drummer, but like, he's beating the shit out of the drums every night and doing the same type of
Tommy
thing.
Lee's a character. I think he's a character. Right? I wanted to put him on the list, but I couldn't.
But like,
definitely
an honorable
mention.
Studio musician on, Mariah Carey's song, whereas, or something that, Quincy Jones was doing somewhere between, black pop or soul or something, and also, rock and roll or even other stuff, No,
that's a good point, Chip. Like you said, there's great studio musicians like that Jeff Porcaro. I mean, he played on Madonna's Like a Prayer album, and she at that point she was huge, and she recruited him because of his style, and he was so versatile and complain, like you said, complain anything. Tommy Lee is not playing with Madonna. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Tommy Lee was drinking 2 gallons of vodka per day.
Right.
He was hanging with.
I don't think anybody wanted to around.
What about looking back at like the '60s, Chip? Like, what are your thoughts on, let's say, like the big three: John Bonham, Ginger Baker, and Keith Moon? Ringo Starr doesn't get enough accolades, I think, as he should. What are your thoughts on those guys?
I'd put Bonham at the top.
Yeah. I think everybody puts Bonham on their top
just
list. That's why I think Bonham might be the best.
Yeah, he did some of those like those shuffle beats. Like if you listen to Rosanna, that's a combination of, I forget what they called it, but it was a black drummer. I don't remember the name of it, but it was basically him and a combination of him and Bonham. I mean, Bonham did all the shuffle beats, and look, I think Bonham had, when I was young, it was like if you didn't have like the Neil Peart drum kit, right? Or Stuart Copeland with the Octobans, or, we didn't have any money, so we had the Rototoms and a 5-piece kit, added a second floor tom. But like Bonham was able to do more with a 4 or 5. Like I think he had 1 tom, but he had 2 floor toms. But he was able to do more with 1 bass drum, 1 mounted tom than most people can do with 2-3 times that. And as far as drums,
right?
But he was also kind of along the melody. I mean, he didn't just play a beat; he played, tonal, and which is, it's not. He was unbelievable. I mean, he died too young, obviously. The Keith Moon thing, I have a lot of fun with this. I have a client who's an architect, and he's a huge Who fan, and he goes through this, and he's Italian from New Jersey, so he's got a strong personality.
Right.
I'm Italian, but really raised in Florida, so a little softer version of that. And I just like,
Yeah, you and me
there's no
both.
way that Keith
Tally
Moon's
hat on.
right. There's no way that Keith Moon's better than Neil Peart. He's like, Neil Peart sucks. I'm like, no, let's not say that. I mean, and then his operations COO is a play little drums, and he's like, no, he's Chip's right. It's Neil Peart. But I think like Keith Moon was a phenomenal personality, and he's a big personality, and that was when and they were doing all kinds of other
wild, right? And he fit them, and he was a great drummer. But was he transformational? I mean, like John Bonham was transformational. I mean, you look at certain Zeppelin songs like Kashmir, like the drums make that song, or transformational is always something I think about. Was that drummer? Were they influence others? Bonham influenced others. Neil Peart was amazing.
Oh, without doubt.
And then like Ginger Baker. A lot of people say Ginger Baker was like one of the top. He's on a lot.
Well, what's funny? I was listening to this. It was like a documentary on drummers, and they're like, every drummer that thinks they're great, like Ginger Baker used to go, I was a jazz drummer. And all these guys know Ginger Baker was like a character, but he's like, he didn't play jazz. Like, but again, who knows to
your point though, where did they all go back? I mean, when Neil went through this, like, I think it worked for him. It didn't work for Tiger Woods when he went through this, like, let me re-engineer everything
recreate my swing.
I think Tiger did his life and his swing and everything else. I mean, when you're that good, just stick with it. But Neil went back to that. If you go on YouTube, there's some he had this drum instructor, Freddie, and I can't remember his last name, but like this professor, and he's like, you're going to re-engineer the whole. There's like an hour-long YouTube on Neil Peart that I sent my brother the other day, and it was like, start with the bass drum, get the right head, get the right pedal, and everything else, and you get snare drum. And he would realize that, like, in building this kit, like, he had the drum too low, so his stroke was going through it instead of off of it, and then rotations and like all that kind of like re-engineering. But he went through this, and this is a must look up for drummers who like Neil, but also like jazz. He was in some really interesting little jazz 10-piece band where he was doing some Rush songs. He was also doing some other stuff, but on like a 4-piece kit, so anybody who thought Neil Peart couldn't play on something that wasn't like a gargantuan, 20-piece drum kit with an electric kit behind it. I mean, he's on this little kit and went back to traditional grip instead of match grip. And he was, Freddie also told me you can't wear sneakers. You never play the bass drum with sneakers. You got to wear dance shoes, almost like those, dress shoes like we wore in the 80s, like with our first suit, real, kind of soft. You could feel the ground underneath them. And so that whole thing, I forget. I mean, I think they played some I think he played YYZ and some other stuff, but like did some jazz stuff and just kind of like got back to basics. But I think a lot of drummers like get back to like the origins of, where this kind of came from, where, instead of just keeping a beat, it was, something where the drummer's like one of the instruments.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you really dig into the all-time list, and I remember my dad, he told me it was Buddy Rich was kind of like the all-time great guy.
He's insane. We were talking about it a couple days ago.
He was insane, and I read something.
Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. Those are the other albums my dad had, like the drum battle or something, and it's got a picture of Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa on there. And go watch an old like Buddy Rich on the Tonight Show or Johnny Carson or something. He's just like, he does more with a hi-hat than most people can do with a 10-piece drum set.
Yeah,
and his expressions were wild, man. He was so like he was in a trance doing this. Like,
have you guys heard of he's now with, I think he's with Slipknot, but Grayson Recruitment?
No. Slipknot. Yeah.
He's a young kid, but real, like, he did Caravan and some of these other like impossible things to play. It's Greyson. Last name's Nekrutman. Okay. He's in a hard rock band now, but a bunch of his videos that my brother shared with me, he's in the same thing. Dark suit with a thin tie on, and he's playing hand crossovers and everything else. Very Buddy Rich-ish. There's definitely a lot of talent out there. I mean, I don't discount it and say, the young kids are all playing the same stuff, but it's hard to innovate when so much has already been done, but it's possible.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I think like if I was to look at my list, I'm just an average guy watching, but I mean, like Buddy Rich, I mean, I think he's the creme de la creme because, like you said, that guy did so much. He was a freak, really. I mean, crazy. Neil Peart, obviously,
and he played with a jacket on, man.
He played with a jacket on. I mean, come on. I mean, and Yeah, like you said, even those Tonight Show things he did like in the 70s,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, you watch this guy play, like, oh my gosh, you know, and then everybody after that, like you said, Neil Peart, you know, he was amazing. Even though he had all these drums, he was amazing because he was so precise. And you know, one of the things you brought up earlier, Chip, is that when Rush played live in concert, it sounded like the album. To where Stuart Copeland is great too, but he's totally improvisational, you know, and he's in jazz, and he'll play the same song different ways every time, you know, and where so it's just really kind of interesting.
I think the personalities too. Stuart doesn't have that like.
Yeah,
he's not like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, but he was just good, and you know, had a really good technique.
You know, another drummer on my list I had is you guys probably remember the Muppets. We had Animal. Remember Animal, the drummer?
Oh yeah.
And my friend Mark Aarons, who's a drummer, he watches this, and he's like, you know, Animal was inspired by Ginger Baker, you know, because he was saying Ginger Baker, and it was so expressive, and he played. I'm like, I didn't know, but I do remember on the Muppets. Remember they had the guy, his name was Floyd, and he was pink, so he was like Pink Floyd. So I think maybe Jim Henson was like a Pink Floyd and a Cream fan, I guess. I don't know.
You know, I think a lot of like you can say somebody's supremely talented and everything else, but it's also, you know, how does someone kind of make you? How do they make you feel, right? I mean, music was one of the things that Stuart said the other night at this little sit down. He's like, there's all kinds of art, right? You know, painted art or visual art, you know, invokes certain, you know, ideas or, you know, makes you kind of think of different things. Whereas like music is more of a feeling. It completely changes your day. I mean, if you put a song, it can completely change your mood, right? And I think it's, you know, I mean, and there's people, like you said, there's people that you've never heard of that are just, you know, people would say that like Charlie Watts, right? Charlie Watts and Ringo Starr. Let's take those two guys.
Yeah.
Pretty much kept a beat, right?
Yeah.
But right beat in the right music is perfect, right? Where
those were the anchors of this.
Yeah.
You know, Charlie was.
I mean, my brother was in a band in the mid '80s. When the spring break movement was like at its top, they played the Reunion Room, which was next to Confetti's.
Oh yeah.
I can't even remember the name of the band, but like the guy that preceded him on drums was like a young kid with a huge drum set and everything. It was like he played like he was Neil Peart. Like there was a fill there was no time for a tone to hit, you know, on a guitar or something. So it was just, I think you have to be the right fit, right? So
yeah,
I mean, just thinking of some of this stuff, I like some kind of weird, like I said, I don't listen to a whole lot of new music, but Missing Persons.
Oh, Terry Bozzio.
Yeah. I mean, that
guy jammed, dude. He played with Zappa. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's just some really good, kind of good talent that didn't always necessarily, like, I think because the music's so good in my mind, I think whoever is playing with Tears for Fears always has such good drum parts. I mean,
yeah.
Bad Man song. I mean, there's songs that are just like drum solos. You don't really realize it because it's like a B-side on a 80s band and nobody knows, you know, kids today don't really pull that up, but I mean, they're missing out.
And the drums, you know, there's another huge 80s hit that has a great drum line really is Simple Minds. Don't you forget about it.
Yeah, love
that guy cranks on drums, dude.
Simple Minds is great, man.
I mean, that guy, the drums in that song
drummer
is excellent. It makes a song.
What was it? Roger Taylor?
Oh, Roger Taylor. Same thing.
Yeah. I mean, there was good stuff. I mean, you didn't have to be rock and roll and ripping the skin off the drum, but
yeah, it's so hard to come up with. Like I said, we always have like our top 10, top 4, but we got to come up with a Mount Rushmore. You know, we always go, hey, we got to get 4 drummers. So if we said, hey, if we had 4 drummers here and we're putting them on Mount Rushmore, and we've talked a lot about different drummers here, guys. I mean, who would be those 4? You know, I mean, you mentioned a lot of different names. You know, you said Tommy Aldridge. I forgot about Tommy Aldridge. He really jammed. He played with Pat Travers Bland. He played with Ozzy, played with Whitesnake. And I remember my brother saw him, Ozzy in concert back in 82 or 81 at Sunrise Musical Theater. Def Leppard opened up. And when he came home that night, I was only 11. I couldn't even go. He goes, the band was amazing. But Tommy Aldridge, he was doing his drum solo. He threw away his sticks and continued to drum solo with his hands.
Yeah, he plays a drum kit with metal rims as if he's playing bongos or congas.
Yeah. So he was like, that guy was like, that was the best drum solo I'd ever seen. So he's a very underrated guitar.
There's also some phenomenal, I don't call them new, but not from the 80s or you know, but you know, drummers like Chad Smith, Chili Peppers.
I have Chad Smith and I like Mike Portnoy too.
I was gonna say Portnoy from Dream Theater.
Yeah.
He's a guy from Tool, Danny Carey.
Danny Carey. Yeah, from Tool.
How about a guy who plays a fairly decent guitar and has a great voice, but he was originally the drummer of Nirvana, Dave Grohl?
Dave
Oh,
Grohl.
Grohl, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
or how about the
He
guy? How
played
about the kid who replaced him and unfortunately lost him?
oh yeah,
Taylor
yeah.
Hawkins.
Taylor
Taylor
Hawkins.
Hawkins
Yeah.
was a great
One of
drummer.
the ones that that my brother and I used to. I mean, Kiss was like one of my when I was like fifth grade. I wanted to go see Kiss, and just like your mother, Bill, my mother
Yeah.
was on point. Like, yeah, you're not going to a Kiss concert.
Right.
Like
Right.
whatever it was, like 12 years old or 10 years old.
Yep.
But like Peter Criss was fine, right? But like the guys that came after him, it wasn't Carmine Appice was
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
some of
The
the
two
other, and there's
brothers.
been new ones since, but like there's just a bunch out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cozy Powell play with Rainbow and Whitesnake.
Right.
The guy,
Yeah.
he jammed. You know, like don't remember maybe Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters. She was voted like best drummer in 1975. She was actually a phenomenal drummer. You know, there's Phil
Only
Rudd.
just
I
begun.
guess we got to figure out who the female. Like, all right, maybe this is about Rushmore with female drummers.
Yeah, there could be, right? There could be. Yeah, I mean, Phil Collins, like you said, he's so if you don't understand, he's underrated as a drummer, and he was transformational, but he's a great singer too. Carl Palmer was another name that I had there from
Yeah,
Emerson, Lake,
yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was
And
on
he-
Rolling Stones top 10, Carl Palmer.
and he
DLP.
jams.
What's the drummer for Dave Matthews Band?
Oh, I don't know his name, but they are a solid band.
Carter Buford. Carter Buford.
Okay.
Carter Buford. I mean, just listen to a live Dave Matthews show, guys.
No, they're amazing
Ridiculously
band.
fast. I mean, fast
Really?
and like precise. Yeah, ridiculous.
I got to check him out. All right, guys. So listen, if we were to try to make a top four, could we come up with a top four?
I could.
I guess
So
you know, the best
why don't
part
we
is-
all do our top four?
Okay.
Go around, do the top four, and then we just choose from the top four.
Well, all right. How about Jeff? You go first,
This
and
is my
then
idea,
since
so
Chip's
I'm
the
gonna go
deciding
first.
factor here, we're going to see what Chip thinks. So you go first, Jeff.
I'm going first since I came up with it. I'm
Right.
joking. I'm going with John Bottom. I'm going with Neil Peart,
Nah.
Keith Moon,
Uh-huh.
and I'm going with Alex Van Halen. I like
Okay.
him. I got him in there. That's it. Sticking to it. I was going to put Ringo in, but everything we do is so around the Beatles.
Right.
And then and I was thinking about putting Charlie in because he was just
Charlie
beloved.
Watts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just beloved, and so
I'm going to
I'm
go
gonna stick
next,
with my
and then
four.
Chip, you're going to be the X factor here, Chip. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go Buddy Rich. Maybe he wasn't a rock drummer.
I had him there. I was thinking.
I got to go Buddy Rich. I'm going to go Bonham. I'm going to go Neil Peart, and I'm going to go Stuart Copeland. Actually,
Ooh,
yeah.
that's
I mean
good.
that's who I like. Yeah, that's I think they're great. That's who
you
I
can't
like.
go. You can't go wrong with any of them.
Yeah.
So
So-
I'm gonna put. I know like all the lists are gonna put Bonham first. I'm gonna put Neil on top.
Right.
Put Bonham.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's almost kind of like when you say, "Oh, you're stuck on a desert island." You know what 5 CDs? You knock out your first one. Yeah, I need something from the.
That's a good episode. We're doing.
You
We're
know?
coming back. We're gonna do the.
Okay, so we
the
got
5
Neil,
for-
we've got Bonham. You know what? I really like. I think Jeff like nailed it. Like getting Alex Van Halen in one of these lists.
Really?
I can't, even though I like it, I can't. I've got to put Buddy Rich based on.
Yeah.
And then just because I love how tight the snare drum is and how precise he is, and one of my favorite trios of all time, I'm going to put Stuart Copeland.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I agree with all your stuff. And
Yeah.
If we got to 10, we could definitely get like Pucara in there, and I'd definitely have Alex in there.
I'd put Chad Smith top 10 too. I really think.
Have you ever watched those drumios when he gets on there and
well, that's why I like, and he has a
song.
great sense of humor, and the Peppers are just a good band, and I just think he could do it all. Play Zeppelin.
Or go
He's
watch
fantastic.
what was it on? I think it was on. I think it was on Jimmy Fallon. It was like Chad Smith and Will Ferrell.
That's
drum-
it. Yeah, they're hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, like I think music's about kind of. I was in marching band in high school, in Northeast High School marching band, the drum line with my brother, we'd go to like competitions in states and, there's actual scores and you can evaluate something, but that's not what life's about, right? I mean, life's about, can you create a better widget and someone's going to buy it? Because if you create the best widget and no one buys it, it's kind of useless. I look at, music is kind of really like you put something on, like, how does it make you feel? I mean, this is totally off this type topic. I don't even believe there's much in the area of like drummers that I could name, but I've been just wearing the heck out of Antonio Carlos Jobim record lately on iTunes. It's called Wave. I mean, he did a really good one with Frank Sinatra. When he
Okay.
just did all when he was kind of getting into Brazilian music and bossa nova and stuff. But it's all got a good beat to it. But the drums aren't like first and foremost. But you just kind of
Sure.
put something on that makes you feel like want to get away from the moment for a bit.
Chip, you hit the nail on the head, dude. Music is about how it makes you feel, and it does. It hits a nerve, and it'll change. I could be down, about whatever is going on in the world and everything, and you put some music on, and it puts you in just a totally different light. I'm more of a guitar guy. Like I don't know, I love instrumental guitar. I love Joe Satriani, Eric Johnson, and stuff.
Satriani, yeah.
I love a
How
lot of
about
jazz
old Weather
guitar.
Report with Jacob Astorius?
Yeah, we did best bassist last episode, and that's what we talked about.
He's
Jocko.
got to be. He's a Northeast high school grad.
Yeah,
he's got to be in
Jocko.
there.
He's the man, dude. Yeah, and like that weather report stuff is amazing. Like you said, you just start listening to free form. And cool thing about drums is the drums could be structured like Neil Peart, or could be like Stuart. And I love Stuart Copeland too, but that's why I love like that crisp snare, and the way he just jams. It's really it's fun to listen to. You know what I mean? I don't know, my opinion.
I don't know if I know we've done some changes in the legislative. I don't want to bring it back to politics, but I think in Florida education system, we've kind of brought back some opportunities to get music back in the schools in different ways. And it never left, but wasn't required. I mean, I think, I think music as a language, whether it's, fifth grade, you're playing, third to fifth grade, you're playing a recorder, and eventually you can pick up a guitar or like something in the percussion section, it should almost be required, that or some type of performing arts or visual art, just things to get, kids' minds out of the screen,
No, I totally agree. And
it opens your mind up.
We have an amazing music program in Broward County at Dillard High School. They have an amazing. And a few years ago, I'm listening to some old jazz, and this guy comes on named Cannonball Adderley. I do some research on him. It turns out he was a teacher at Dillard High School in the early 60s.
Yep.
And we have this amazing music program, and you never hear about it.
Yeah, Cannonball Adderley is a legend.
Right, Chip?
Yep. Now, there's definitely there was Blanche Ely has an amazing band at Drumline, Dillard, Northeast, and Fort Lauderdale, and
I think Piper used to. I think Piper and Sunrise, used to have a great.
Piper used to have their own music studio. Like we'd go out and do these. I did something that kind of got me more into the drums than the guitar was like this jazz ensemble, and we'd have just like you'd have a marching band and a concert band,
right?
In high school, you'd have a jazz band, ensemble, and you'd go compete and other stuff. But like that's where I kind of opened my musical exposure and awareness, and like the first concert we ever went to, my mom took us to I think it was the West Palm Beach International Airport Hilton, and it was Maynard Ferguson. Ferguson plays the trumpet, and he's got this like really, one of the songs he did was Birdland, and Weather Report did it too. So
Weather Report, yeah.
So I mean, it was just like getting exposed to stuff. I was never going to play the trumpet, but the drummer was pretty good in the band.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, and get back. You mentioned Piper. There is a jazz bar / restaurant, Sunrise, called the All That Jazz Cafe Music School. My daughter played piano there for a few years, and he was a music teacher at Piper, and it's a great place, very underrated. A lot of people don't know about it, and he's got great talent there all the time. Live jazz, I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights in Sunrise.
We're getting ready to.
A lot of them come from Dillard.
Yeah. We're getting ready to go on a family trip tomorrow. The second half of the trip, we're taking a cruise from Southampton, England, up through the Irish Sea, and on the boat.
Nice.
And we did this before, like in the Mediterranean. And the boat has a small jazz club, and so like at dinner with the wives, my brother-in-law and I would disappear, have a little wine, and listen to a little jazz, and just like a great way to kind of go and get away,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, Chip, listen, I thank you for taking your time, and you're going on vacation tomorrow, and I'm sure you got a lot of last minute stuff going on. But hey, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we had a great time talking. I think our Mount Rushmore. Did we all agree? I mean, Chip, I really like.
I guess we got to go. We got to go. John Bottom, Neil Peart, Stuart Copeland, and Buddy Rich.
Yeah. Do we all agree on that, Jeff?
I'm in. I'm glad you guys agreed to that. That's a great list.
That's a great list.
And Alex is off to the side with like fire extinguishers on his 8 bass drums.
Yeah, I like Alex Van Halen too, but
I want to get his documentary. He wrote a book on Van Halen and his brother and everything else. There's some pretty cool stuff in it.
Yeah, I feel like he's in the shadow of Eddie, and they always was like, oh, he's not a great drummer, and I'm like, he is a really good drummer. Like
if Eddie wasn't the guitar player, guitarist in Van Halen, Alex Van Halen will be known as a phenomenal drummer. And
Yeah. That's what I think. I think he just got like the rap that because it was just Eddie's brother that he was just not as good, but he played the crap out of those drums, man.
How about you have a golfer has a kid doesn't necessarily mean he's gonna be a good golfer. A football player has a kid doesn't mean he's gonna be a good athlete. Eddie Van Halen as a kid doesn't look like a rocker, but Wolfie,
right?
I mean, he can shred on the guitar like his dad. He can play. He played bass with Van Halen, and he got on drums on Drumeo, and he was pretty damn good. I mean, he could probably fill in any Van Halen concert.
Well, they're just the Van Halens were just talented people. Their father was a musician, and he's
very talented.
They started as and he started as a piano player. So
that's what I was going to say. So this is all about drums.
Right.
And I'm not going to say I'm going to blow your mind, but my opinion is, having been a guitar player who could read music in like middle and high school and then pretty much stopped playing when I went off to college, I would say the guitar is not like riding a bike. The drums are a little closer. You can pick them back up. But I would say that the one thing, if you have kids that you want to be in music, every single one of them should start off playing the piano.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It makes the most sense.
Yeah, my daughter played for like 5 years. I wish she would have stuck with it, but she's in college now. But she still plays a little bit. But yeah, you're right, Chip. No doubt about it. Kids, if you're going to be a musician, you got to start
basis. Yeah,
for sure.
Well, we didn't talk about
nice meeting you.
But he's a pretty good drummer too.
Have a good trip.
Yeah, Chip. Hey, thanks again for your time, buddy. Appreciate it. Have a great vacation.
We should have him back for the island one. We'll do the
the island with 5 CDs.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. We'll do it in.
Let's do it. Then because you're gonna get down to like, well, I like Rush, but I like which album, or Van Halen, but which one? I was on the way out. I'll share this. I posted this on X. I took the Bright Line up to a conference, a transportation thing I had to go to on Thursday, and I was like, I'm gonna go through the Van Halen discography, and I put 1, 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning, and I realized by pulling them up on Apple Music, they did an album in 79, 80, 81, 82.
Mm-hmm.
Like four albums in 4 years. I don't think they did anything in 83, then 1984. No, they did Diver Down.
No, they Diver Down.
Diver Down.
Yeah, Diver Down. It was like, I remember getting the Diver Down album at my confirmation from my cousin. And then 1984, obviously 1984. So, I mean, it's 6 albums in 6 years.
Yeah.
No wonder they were burnt out and Dave wanted to go do something else.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right, we'll do the island.
All right, guys. Have a good trip.
For sure. All right, sounds good, Chip. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys, I'll talk to you. Leave it open for a minute. It's got to load, so.